I call this workshop session to order. We have some old business to take care of. The collection agency proposal. Okay. And then I left you boxes an approval of memorandum of understanding between the City of Dunkirk, the Village of Fredonia, and SUNY Fredonia. I think I left that before as well. And I'm wondering if it's okay with you to sign that. Anybody?
Look fine.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can do that. All right, let's go to new business. We have the police department report for May 2018. And we have the justice report for May 2018. And then Lakeshore Savings, they are giving us a welcome sign on Central Avenue, which we needed. So I want to thank them very much.
It's nice.
Okay, great. Let's go to review resolutions. Request to hold annual Laurel Run 7/20 in 2018 and to sell newspapers on street corners July 10th, 2018. Then request from Ronnie Thompson, BLB Insurance, to hold movie night in the park July 27th, 2018 with a rain date July 29th, 2018. And then we have the seeker for emergency water line replacement. No problem with that, no? Okay,
That was saying we didn't need to have it, correct?
that's right. Yep. Then mayor authorized to send thank you letter to Lakeshore Savings and Loan for sign donation. Request from DFT to allow food trucks and buy-ins of meters July 20th, 2018. We're going to have the public hearing and enactment of local law number 2 of 2018 regarding food trucks. And also a public hearing and enactment of local law number 3 of 2018 regarding alcoholic beverages. And last but not least, training request of Michael Woodward to attend the basic laboratory procedures course at a cost of $1,640.
I think we're going to amend that. We're just going to change the cost.
Oh,
1,540.
540? I got 640, sorry. Do anything else? It was 5 minutes, we're done. That's it?
I'm sorry?
No executive session tonight.
No.
No executive session.
I gave up magic at high school.
No, that I know.
Calendar or something, stuff.
We need a performer.
Yep, well, look at the dates here.
Yeah. That's all right.
But it is, like, if you go through here, blah, blah, blah.
So-
It was the right date, because it was.
One nation, under God, indivisible,
call this meeting to order. At the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 25th day of June 2018 at 7:30 p.m. in the Trustees' Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the media, news media, and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. Before we start, I have a good story. So, May 16th, a little before 9 p.m., Fredonia Fire was dispatched after a call for a possible stroke. Firefighter Tyler Clues, who is an EMT student, was the first one there about only 2 minutes after the call. He found a patient that was unresponsive with no pulse and agonal breathing. He immediately started CPR. Shortly after, firefighters EMTs Tyler Bales, Ryan Fisk, and Tyler DeRusso arrived and assisted. In the meantime, firefighter EMT Ken Haas stopped by the fire station and picked up a medical bag and a defibrillator. He arrived at the scene less than 10 minutes after the first dispatch call. They worked together cooperatively, professionally, and quickly, and today they're all here with us. Also with us is Mr. Donald Skelly, healthy and very well indeed. Now, in appreciation, I would like to present to our firefighters and EMTs with a certificate of appreciation. Could you please come?
Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
You guys did a great job. Fantastic. I'm glad you're here.
Yes.
Glad we got these young volunteers.
Isn't it wonderful?
I love it. Glad we got the volunteers.
Grab that microphone.
I have a certificate of recognition. Whereas emergency medical services, EMS, is a vital public service. And whereas quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness and injury. And whereas the Fredonia Fire Department stands ready to provide compassionate, life-saving care to those in need. And whereas on May the 16th, 2018, firefighter Tyler Clues, firefighter EMT Tyler Bales, firefighter EMT Ryan Fisk, firefighter EMT Tyler DeRusso, and firefighter EMT Ken Haas were members of the Fredonia Fire Department, and whereas firefighter Clues, firefighter EMT Bales, Fisk, DeRusso, and Haas were 5 members to respond quickly to a report of a male with possible stroke, located the patient unresponsive, and provided high-quality cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, and whereas firefighter Clues, firefighter EMT Bales, Fisk, DeRusso, and Haas actions are indicative of their character and work ethic as members of the Fredonia Fire Department. Now, therefore, I, Athanasia Landis, Mayor of the Village of Fredonia, thank firefighter Clues, firefighter EMT Bales, Fisk, DeRusso, and Haas for saving the life of a husband, father, grandfather, and member of our community. It is my hope that your example will inspire others for years to come. Okay. Moving ahead. I have two things for my report. I have the report of the police department.
We have the police report for the month of May. 963 incidences, 160 arrests reported, vehicle and traffic 38, 108 parking tickets, and at Fredonia Central School, 7 calls reported. The second report is the justice report for the month of May. There were 272 total cases, $26,244 collected in fees. There were 21,328 of total fines and surcharges and $4,916 in parking tickets. And that's it for reports.
Thank you. Now, for my report, I have two things, very small things. First one is probably everybody read about a week ago, New York State Controller. He had a report about the dam and about all dams actually, and found ours to be unsound. Now, I had some messages from people of the village who are concerned, and this is what I have to say. We had a study and we have a report as to what we need to do. So we know what we need to do. And at this moment, our engineers are looking into federal grants because we will never be able to pay all the money by ourselves. At the same time, I am working very closely with the county executive. We have some ideas and we're discussing them. I have another meeting this week. So my hope is that pretty soon, especially now that it's out and people know about it, pretty soon you're going to have some good report as to where and when we can find the money so we can start fixing. I want to make sure that everybody understands the dam is my priority as well as the reservoir. It's good for us. We have nice, clean, cheap water. It's good for the area, and it can even be good for economic development in the area. So I'll keep you posted as soon as I know more. And the other thing, this is from something that was in the paper over the weekend about Memorial Day, and everybody celebrates Memorial Day their own way. Both my father and my father-in-law were veterans, so we do have our way to celebrating that day. However, I would like, actually, to have a kind of celebration for the village and not organized by private people. So I was thinking of putting together a committee that I'm going to call Community Pride. We need new branding of the village of Fredonia. We need to make sure that the village is out with a new logo, with a new, with some pictures, with a few ideas. And one of the tasks for that committee can be and will be to find a way to celebrate Memorial Day in the village. So this is an open invitation before I assign the members. Open invitation to everybody who is interested in that committee to contact me in the next 2 weeks. And I know there are members, very proud members in our committee, in our community. We have a garden club. We have, a historic society. We have many clubs that we have people very proud and very knowledgeable and very much willing to work. So please get in contact with me and we can get started. So that's for my report.
I have no report.
Any report from trustees? Trustee Barris? Trustee Christina?
Yes, I have two things I'd like to mention. As of today, we had 120 children signed up so far for the Parks and Rec program so far, and kids can still sign up, is that correct? So they're off to a really great start. The program started today, so good news on that front. We also, I got an email with a request from the Fredonia Animal Hospital. They wish to donate another dog waste station similar to the one that we have in the park. And I will forward you the information. They're wondering if we would like another one to put in another park. They suggested maybe Russell Joy Park, but we can talk about that. And so I just want to kind of mention that a little bit. I think it's a nice thing. They would donate bags and the whole structure and everything. So,
Very good.
yep, that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Linden?
I have no report.
Trustee Briggs?
No report.
Trustee Essek?
Yeah, just one small thing here. When we received our notice here of the meetings here, we needed to finish the last meeting in December. There was no meeting. We had to fill it here, so if you look, we have a meeting on the 10th, but there's a workshop on the 17th. I don't know if that would be a good time to make that a workshop meeting, because there was a second meeting that was not filled out, so.
Okay, I'll take a look. So that's for the last meeting of the year.
That's correct. I would assume that would make the most sense to have it on the day that we have the workshop, to have a workshop meeting on the 17th, instead of closer to the holidays. And I don't know how we have to handle that, Rick.
We'll have
Do
to
you have any
look at
idea?
that,
Is
sure.
it just a matter of,
Yeah, it's just a modification to that schedule, right? 'Cause
Okay,
the schedule's
yes.
just listing, and that's it for the rest of the year? Is that
That's
what you're
correct,
saying?
yeah.
Okay.
but if we already pass a resolution to accept this as it was, is something?
Yeah, we could just make you can do a resolution of modifying that to make that a meeting, that's all.
Did anybody have any thoughts on that 17th being the
That's fine.
common sense thing there?
Sure.
I think that's
I think we could do that.
Makes sense.
Send it to the next meeting. with the
You said
resolution.
17?
Yeah, that's correct. Because the following Monday would be Christmas Eve.
Okay. You guys don't want to meet on Christmas Eve?
No, I
Just
That's all.
Just ask.
Thank you.
check it.
Okay. Correspondence was received from Steve Watterson, Community Relations Director of the Resource Center, on behalf of the 22nd Annual Floral Run, requesting use of various village street corners to sell a special edition of The Observer on Tuesday, July the 10th, 2018, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and to use village streets for the annual Laurel Run flag relay on Friday, July the 20th, 2018.
Be it resolved at the request of Stephen Watterson, Community Relations Director, on behalf of the 22nd Annual Laurel Run, to use various village street corners to sell a special edition of The Observer on July 10th, 2018, is hereby approved, subject to the direction of the Fredonia Police Department, and be it further resolved that the volunteers shall take all precautions, including use of group leaders, and the board requests that the volunteers shall stay off the streets and be restricted to the sidewalk street corners. And be it further resolved that the request of use variance village streets for the 2018 annual Laurel Run on Friday, July 20th, 2018 is hereby approved, subject to the direction and escort of the Fredonia Police Department and the village receiving a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the village as an additional insured, which the village has received.
Second that motion.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Thank you. Correspondence was received from Ronnie Thompson, BLB Insurance Agency, requesting permission to use West Barker Common and the gazebo for a movie night in the park event, July the 27th, 2018, rain date, July the 29th, 2018, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Be it resolved that the request from Ronnie Thompson on behalf of BLB Insurance Agency to hold a movie night in the park event and movie night in the park event and to close Church Street from Park Place to Temple Street, July 27, 2018, during the hours of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is hereby approved, subject to the direction of the police department and the village receiving a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the village as an additional insured.
Second that motion?
Trustee Burns.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Thank you. This being the time and place for the public hearing on proposed local law number 2 of 2018 to provide an orderly and fair process for mobile food vehicles to operate within the village limits by adding Chapter 197 entitled Mobile Food Vehicles. Proof of publication shown. I call this hearing to order. Now, before I start, I want to make sure that we understand this is a public hearing, not a public conversation. So, in the interest of giving everyone the ability and the time to talk, anybody who wishes to address the board, stand up, give the name, and has 3 minutes to state whatever they want to say or have a question. Now, I will ask the board of trustees, when they vote on the law, they can take a time as much as they wish to either make a comment or answer a questions given by the public. This is in the interest of not going back and forth and then just one person monopolizes the whole hearing. So, does anybody wishes to address the board? Yes.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rolano, 10 Carroll Avenue. I've been here many times about the drainage situation on Carroll Avenue.
This is about the food truck.
Oh, the food truck. Oh,
This
I'm
is a
sorry.
public hearing about the food truck.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So, anybody about the food trucks?
Sam Drayo, a village resident, Birchwood Drive. I'm here to oppose the food truck ordinance, Mayor, village board. The legal notice and proposed law leaves much up in the air. The details of the licensing of food trucks are apparently to be adopted by a simple resolution later on by the village board. This is not the democratic way to adopt a local law. The proposed local law should spell out in detail the terms of the licensing. It should be published in full in the Observer so the public is informed and has an opportunity to comment before any action is taken. This local law now before the board simply states the requirements for a food truck license will be determined at a later date. Many questions arise regarding this law. One, where are the food trucks to be permitted? Will they just be in the downtown business district, or can they roam throughout the village? The local law doesn't say. Will they be permitted to use village street parking spaces that are very much needed for our existing restaurants and other businesses and their employees and customers? One food truck can take up to 2 parking spaces. Again, nothing stated in the local law. What are the hours of the operations of the food truck? Not stated in the local law. Supposedly, this is to be done by a simple resolution without a hearing. Have you considered the adverse effect food trucks will have on our existing restaurants? If a food truck takes a few breakfasts, luncheons, or dinners away from our existing restaurants, that could mean reduced income to existing restaurants. And they may have to lay off an employee, or also there could be the possibility of a restaurant closing. Our existing restaurants pay not only village taxes, but school taxes, county taxes, and town taxes, and water and sewer bills to our existing village. And they employ people. Still got a little bit more here. Food trucks, as I understand it, this word of mouth will pay an annual fee of $500. Again, this is not set forth in the law. That amounts to $1.38 a day. I also expect the food trucks will probably originate from outside the village. Will food trucks be allowed picnic tables on village sidewalks, possibly obstructing our sidewalks? What about trash containers? There's no guarantee, if there are any, that they will be used. Will customers of food trucks in the street cause a traffic hazard? What about noises from food truck, generators, and odors from food trucks near businesses? This could be a nuisance. Food trucks need to have a county health department permit, but these permits are only once a year. With no hot or cold running fresh water or toilet facilities, what will sanitation be like? Everything should be done to protect our existing restaurants. They pay taxes, water and sewer bills, and they employ people. This local law has a real potential of creating adverse unintended consequences. Again, no details are spelled out in the local law. The public cannot make any intelligent comment on a local law that says nothing about the operations of the trucks and leaves it to a simple resolution of the village board in the future. A simple resolution of the village board adopted without a public hearing, without public comment, and it should be done by a local law. This is not the democratic way to adopt a local law, and the people are deprived of the right to be heard on the details of the law. I urge this board not to adopt this local law. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Anybody else?
Yes.
Gus Pokovic. I agree partly with Sam, but I have some disagreements also. 8 years ago, I came in front of, not this board, but a board, zoning board. Had to go get permits through the engineering department so I can get a drawing. I was on private property at Coglins. I jumped through a ton of hoops, and finally I got there. Okay, and I followed the rules, and I was told then that in the near future, which means 8 years ago would have been near future, you may be able to get permitted. The village may sit down now. If I had known that I was looking at $500, you know, between insurances and everything, the way I operate, you're talking I got to sell 750 hot dogs to even open the door, okay? And if the restaurants in the village, they want to participate in these festivals, they've had all kinds of millions of offers to participate, and they choose not to, but yet they don't want to see anybody else participate. You know, you've got to bring outside people in on Vineyard Drive to serve pizza. We got 40 pizza shops here, okay? You know, to me, it's ridiculous, okay? Also, these restrictions, they're not clarified. Sam was right, nothing's in there. But my grandson wants to run a lemonade stand and sell cookies on the corner, okay? Are you going to tell him, hey, you got to have a permit? Now you sound like that little girl in California. You know, what do we got to call this? A Landis permit? Because basically there's no explanation on any of this thing. It's very vague. And I don't, if somebody says that's the way they do it in Buffalo, Buffalo's got 50 times the population. Plus they got people that eat lunch on the streets. They got Canal Side. What do we have here? We've got several restaurants that don't want to participate in any of the festivals or do anything outside of just their restaurant, which is fine if that's what they choose, but don't eliminate other people who want to come in. First of all, I think Chautauqua County people, Fredonia people, Duncan people should be first in. And after that, then you open it up. Okay? Now, if you want to make the argument with the Chamber of Commerce, 6 years ago I went to the Chamber, I was a member of it. I asked to be in the ice festival over there. And they said, no, we have a vendor out of South Dayton. I said, well, is he a member of the Chamber? They said, well, no, he's been there for years. I mean, come on. Okay, so nobody can use that argument either. You know, they want to talk about businesses attracting businesses. When you have these festivals downtown, and I don't care if they don't want to participate, but they actually attract a lot of people in all the restaurants and stores or whatever's open in town, left open. You're going to take that away because you're not going to get food trucks in there. Sure, if you don't want them, that's fine. But how are you going to run festivals? How are you going to run things? How are you going to make it look, you know, like it's a community that has things to offer to young people? Okay? And that really bothers me. That bothers me a lot. Now, you know, as far as the rules go, your definition of food truck is not even there. And you call it, and the reason is for safety. For safety, okay? It says here, what is it, 197, or no, 197.6? When you, no it's not. Anyway, it says for the safety and to protect the public safety and the interest of other food retailers. Public safety, where's the criteria for the safety of a food truck? I don't see any criteria in here. How are you going to set it up? Nobody discussed it. And who was on this committee? 2 restaurants and 2 board members. Who was the other board member? Who were the restaurant people? Can you answer that? Because I was never invited, and I've been operating a vending truck here for 9 years.
This is your turn. Okay.
What, to sit down in the committee today? No, you're pushing this thing where you guys want to vote on it. If I would have sat down with you, I would have raised these questions. I would have raised them. But you know, your committee is like a lopsided committee, I believe. Okay? It really is. You know, like, it's like you said, they pay the taxes, well, college kids, they rent an apartment. Okay? They get to vote, they don't pay taxes, but who benefits is that guy that owns that apartment. God bless him. Okay? I pay rent, I go across the street and pay rent for my food truck or for my cart. Guess what? That all reverts back to that guy paying his taxes. Okay, so that argument, you know, and as far as the water goes, and yes, Chautauqua County, when you get permitted, you have to have some sanitary station running water, which I have confined tanks. It's all NFG grade. I have everything that complies with national. So, I mean, let's face it. You know, I know that you're saying it's not, but these people do comply. You know, it's just like all over again from 9 years. You know, and who come up with the $500 fee? If you're interested in safety, okay, then maybe you should just permit each time this truck shows up, it may be $40, $50, whatever, so you know they're there. At least you know they're there, they're coming, you can inspect them. And if you want to talk safety, OSHA, look out front. You got plastic chains across that step. That's not even OSHA approved. You got to have something lit up at night with cones and everything else. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to set the criteria for safety on food carts. Well, I rest my case. You guys want to vote this in, Fredonia, you know, will be going down again. Because you're not going to get anybody to come to festivals. You got people from Florida running the food anyway out of the Fredonia Fest, most of it. I rest my case.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Roger Pecos, Woodcrest Drive. I read in the paper today that out of all the municipalities in Chautauqua County, Fredonia lost the most population out of any of them.
This is still on food truck?
It's on food trucks.
Okay.
I imagine that had to do with, Carriage House closing and some other businesses closing. This board needs to do whatever it can to bring people into this community. Otherwise, we're just exchanging money. You're paying my salary, I'm spending it in the local businesses, we're just exchanging our own money. You bring people in, and then you're getting outside money. I know people that go up to Buffalo all the time for their food truck Tuesday. They go to Canal Side for their festivals. We got some great festivals here, long-standing traditions, the Farm Festival, Red, White, and Blues Festival. I'd like to see the concert series expanded. You can't even compare what we do here in Fredonia to what's happening in Dunkirk. Now they got a beautiful waterfront, a great place to be in the summer. We can't compete with that. But they also, you can go to there and you can get food, you can get something to drink. We could offer something like that. I don't have the answer as far as food trucks. I agree with Sam, we need to protect our local businesses. They should be able to set up too if we're gonna allow food. Okay, because they're the brick and mortar stores that are paying taxes. I agree with that. All I know is we need to do something. This board needs to do something to bring people in this community, to make it attractive. If people come in, even if they just grab something to eat and drink in the park and listen to music, hopefully they'll look around and they'll spot the restaurants and they'll say, hey, we got to come back here and spend some money another time. You just got to get them into the village. So I hope we move forward with this, whether it's today or in the near future. But this issue's been kicked around long enough, and we need to move forward and make some progress on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I'd just like to make a point here. I don't know if Dan Guy drew up this ordinance.
He's not going to be here today.
Did he draw up the ordinance? Well, it wasn't done very well. Sam is correct. The details, the devil's in the details. And you should have all the details worked out before you pass the ordinance. Because after you pass the ordinance, it's going to be too late. And you really you want people to know what you're doing when they come for a public hearing. So I would suggest that you postpone the decision, go back to your attorney, tell them the objections you had, what needs to be put in it, and have him put all the necessary details into the ordinance, and then you can adopt it and feel comfortable that what you're doing is the right thing.
And in all fairness, the only reason that they're not in the law are so if the board chooses later on to change the fee, it's not going to be a whole big deal to do that. But everything that Mr. Dreyo was asking, everything was discussed and made decisions on, as, the chief,
But he didn't put it in the ordinance.
the what?
But he didn't put it in the ordinance, you discussed it.
And that's the reason. The reason is so the board can make decisions when they come to that. I understand what you're saying. Paul?
I really don't think any of the vendors would have a problem with paying a fee. But I'm just curious as to how you came up with 500 to start. I mean, business is tough enough, but to come down here, say for 3 or 4 times, and have to spend $500 to do that, that's prohibitive. I mean, how many people do you think are going to do that?
I understand. That's protecting our local businesses.
Well, our local businesses can step out their door too and set something up at some of these festivals. If they're that concerned, maybe they should get involved. We wouldn't need all of these food trucks.
I understand.
Something to think about.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Joanne Mansfield. I have a comment about the brick and mortar people, the food trucks, the competition between them, and that's my problem, is the competition. I'm thinking that if we look around, food trucks may be a fad, may happen, may go away tomorrow. But I'm thinking also that it's time to look at what we can do. I agree, Mr. Makis, about coming into our village and getting people and getting movement and getting some excitement going here. But I also think that it's time to look at some creative ways to work together. Outside people, inside people, food trucks, vendors, whatever, something really creative about that. And I'm thinking maybe we should have a merchants association that works together, that if they have thoughts and feelings on it, they should get together with a food truck association. I don't care, just work together. And I think that that would be possibly something that the future should be bringing for this village of Fredonia. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
This is Nancy Rolando. Has anybody gone to the food trucks in Buffalo? Has anybody done? Because I have.
Yes, yes.
And it is so much fun. And not only do the food trucks provide an energy, but the businesses that are there too benefit, because sometimes people don't want to sit on a picnic table. They want to go into the restaurant, or the restaurant provides alcohol, which you can't get with the food trucks. So it brings people downtown, and it would help the other businesses as well. Now, I don't know about the fees, but I do believe that everything should be set forth, like Mr. Dreo said. Everything should be itemized so that you know exactly what you're signing up for. But it could create so much energy to come downtown. I mean, it's really a lot of fun if you ever go to Canal Side to the food trucks. And they're so different, from ice cream to Thai to Italian to all different kinds, macaroni and cheese. I mean, just endless. And it's a lot of fun.
Anybody else? All right, so we close the public hearing. And we go straight to the other one. This being the time and place for the public hearing on proposed local law number 3 of 2018, amending chapter 81 of the Fredonia Village Code entitled Alcoholic Beverages, Proof of Publication Shown. I call this hearing to order. Anybody wishes to address the board? Yes, Mr. Luce.
I know I asked you before, but do you think possibly by the next meeting, somebody can give me a timeline on this new water line going on the street?
This is again public hearing for alcohol.
This is alcohol.
Oh, alcohol, I didn't hear you.
Sorry.
What do we got everything broke down today, huh? But as long as I got it out there, could somebody tell me?
Okay, anybody else?
I'm Sharon Kaminsky with the Fredonia Farm Festival. Just have a couple questions. We've been dealing with this since February, been to several of the board meetings. The alcohol, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but in the Fredonia Farm Festival venue, we have Merit Wine who makes slushies, which is a 0.5 limit of alcohol, which falls under, I looked under, the Agricultural Market Law 1352, Section C, which allows it to be titled a frozen dessert. I've seen some of the things that possibly could be happening. I just want to know what this is going to, how this is going to affect us, so I can let our Mr. Merritt from Merritt Winery know what to expect.
Well, even if we pass the law today, let's say, it's going to take some time to be filed with the state and have it back. So I don't expect that anything that we pass today is going to affect whatever you're doing.
It will not affect?
It will not affect. That's, and I'm not saying that by myself. I asked the attorney this
So we
question
can
before.
determine that as we've done, as of last year's, we can continue to do it for this year, and then we will deal with more meetings and decisions.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Pecos.
Roger Pecos. I've had this discussion with trustees, I don't know for how many years now. I understand that, I think when the park was deeded, it was supposed to be alcohol-free. This is 2018. It's been 150 years. Again, I think this village needs to do some things to bring people in. This is not a radical idea. Communities as close by as Dunkirk. You can go to their activities and you can get something to drink. Go down there on a Thursday night, there's families there, they're buying from the local businesses, so the businesses are making money. The police are wandering around, having conversations. I've never seen a problem. I think you could have the same thing with the farm festival. I've suggested you sell like a souvenir cup and you can take it to one of the businesses and grab a beer or something or wine. Now the farm festival can use that money to help with the parade or whatever they need it, and the businesses are making money. So I think there's ways to make this happen, to encourage people to come into town, to make our festivals even better without everybody looting and pillaging the village. That's the fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I'm Linda Leakey. I'm a longtime resident and taxpayer of Fredonia, and I represent the Italian Festival. We have a festival right around the corner, and what we would like to do is what we've done in the past years. A couple of wine vendors sell a little cup of wine, and when the people purchase their Italian food, they go to a roped-off, fenced-off area, eat their Italian food, and drink their little cup of wine. There's nobody wandering around the park or the village carrying cups of wine. So that seems like a pretty reasonable request. Regarding foot traffic in the village, there are so many more little shops, and this would encourage foot traffic. So as I brought the posters around, I've talked to many people, and they've said, oh, we would love to see people come and visit our shops. We have a little farm shop and a Spot and a Spell, and even going into the restaurants if they don't like what we're having. We've got many vendors coming this year, food vendors, craft vendors, and this is a good way to get people to come into Fredonia. So the little cup of wine is almost a moot point. So I'm hoping that we will consider that. Thank you.
Mr. Dreyer.
I have similar questions about this local law as they did on local law number 2. It doesn't spell out the terms. The local law states that it will allow the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages in quote unquote designated areas. What are the designated areas? That shouldn't be determined by simple resolution. That should be in the local law where people can see it and comment on it. And that's not done. It also says for a public event. What public event? It's not defined in the local law. If you don't define these terms, problems are surely going to arise. Apparently, all these details are to be ironed out at a later date by simple board resolution without any prior notice to the public, without allowing the residents the opportunity to be heard. Now, this proposed local law also omits other terms and conditions of suspending the prohibition of the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages. This procedures you are undertaking denies the rights of the residents to be heard. This is not due process. It's not being transparent with the residents of the village. Local laws need to be fully drafted and published in the Observer and a public hearing held before it's enacted. The residents must be given the opportunity at a public hearing to comment on the laws before enactment. Residents may have some good suggestions to offer that you might want to include that you may not have thought of. One question not addressed in the proposed local law is, will the suspension of the law against consumption of alcoholic beverages and any new regulations which you might propose to be adopted by a simple resolution? Permit fundraisers, where a group can set up a beer keg in Barker Common or other places in the village to raise funds for a charitable cause or just have a party. It's not addressed. The local law does not address this at all. If this is not the case, it should be specifically prohibited and spelled out in the local law. All the conditions for the granting of a permit for alcoholic consumption should be spelled out so that people have an opportunity to comment on the conditions of granting a permit. This local law, in effect, gives complete authority to the village board to allow the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverage on any terms it deems advisable by a simple resolution. There'd be no opportunity for the public to review the terms of the law in advance and to be heard at a public hearing. This is not good local government and not the democratic way. Regarding the Italian festival, I'm in favor of the Italian festival. I'm of Italian heritage, as are many in our village. I also contribute money to the Italian festivals. But first and foremost, we are all Fredonians, and a law has to be democratic and adopted after full disclosure of all the terms of the law and the opportunity of the citizens to be heard. I urge the board not to adopt this local law, as it does not spell out any of the terms of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Andy Ludwig, 30 Ryan Place. I was here 2 weeks ago. It's unfortunate that Mr. Guard isn't here tonight because he gave a fantastic explanation and he addressed some of Mr. Drayo's concerns. I said this before, I'll say it again, Mr. Pecos mentioned it. Our surrounding communities have great success with these kinds of festivals. Mr. Guard convinced me, and I think he convinced anybody that was in attendance 2 weeks ago, that he's done his due diligence, the committee has done their due diligence in protecting the village moving forward, and I would encourage the board members to vote yes on this proposition. Thank you.
Okay, we close the public hearing, and we go to the public portion of this meeting where people can talk about anything else. Yes.
Yeah, all right. Nancy Milano, 10 Carroll Avenue. I just would like to know what is the situation on the drainage project on Carroll Avenue. Because when I met with Mr. St. George and Mr. Guard in January, they told me they had good news and bad news for me. The good news was June 1st, they were going to start the drainage project. The money was in the budget, and that would take care of my situation as well as the other people on Carroll Avenue that had the same issue. The bad news was I had to wait to June. So it's past June, it's almost July. I've had markers on my property. I have flags on my property, but yet I have nothing. And I would like to know what the situation is.
Thank you. After the closing of the public hearing, I think we can, you can have some answers. Mr. Lewis.
Once again, anybody got any idea when my water's gonna be fixed? I understand the money's there. Does anybody have a clue when they're gonna start digging?
Thank you. Okay.
I guess not, huh? Okay.
Let's close the public hearing, the public meeting, portion first, yes.
Excuse me, I got a little cheat sheet. First of all, I was asked by a group of community members, prominent community members, to come here and talk to this board. And first of all, I want to thank the board and the mayor for their service. I know it's difficult, but from what I got from the last meeting you had, you're making this much more difficult than it has to be. The rancor that occurred at the last board meeting was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for you, and it was embarrassing for this village. Anybody tuning into that meeting would say, I'm not going to move into that village. Those people are dysfunctional. And that's how you acted. Very dysfunctional. I don't know if you went back and watched the tape, but it was embarrassing. And first of all, I think to answer a question that you had, Doug, the mayor has every right to tell the department head what to do. There can only be one leader in the village, and that's the mayor. 3 trustees have the power, but the mayor is the leader. But just because she's the leader doesn't mean she shouldn't consult with the board on some of the decisions she makes, especially consulting with the village administrator, who, by the way, runs the day-to-day operation of the village. Okay? You people, this is a small village. You have to work together. You can't have meetings like you had last week. If you have an argument, 12 years, 4 years as trustee and 12 years as mayor, never saw anything like it. Never. If we had a disagreement, we discussed it downstairs. When we came up here, we acted like ladies and gentlemen. You can never record a meeting where we had that kind of a discussion that you had here last week. Now, I have a suggestion. I told the mayor that, I told the village administrator, you're arguing over Eagle Street, where to dump the grass and the leaves. First of all, in my opinion, the grass and the leaves aren't your main problem. Your main problem is picking up brush. Now, you could hire a kid 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, from 9 to 4, to go down there, man Eagle Street, and charge the residents $1 or $2 a bag to dump their brush in there. First of all, you would pay for the part-time kid in the brush. Secondly of all, it would save you 4 men going around this village constantly picking up people's brush. Those men could be utilized to do more important work than picking up brush. Just make it known that people can bring their brush in. First of all, a lot of the brush sits on the streets for weeks before it's picked up. It looks awful, makes the village look awful. Now, as long as I'm here, I'm going to let it all out. These are what people tell me, and this is what you should listen to. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying these are opinions. You have a part-time operator at the sewer plant. You have a part-time operator at the water plant. They have no skin in the game. They're only part-time. They come in part-time, they leave. They're not making the necessary, I believe, repairs to the plant. There's no leadership down there. And what's going to happen, and I pray it doesn't, you're going to either have something go wrong at the sewer plant or the water plant. And the first thing that's going to happen is who's operating that plant on a full-time basis. You people need to get full-time help down there. Licensed operators at the sewer plant and at the water plant. It's important. You talked about the mobile trucks and the trash it created. I walked through town the other day, I picked up some paper, and I went to throw it in the trash barrel. There's not a trash barrel in this town. Not one. Why isn't there a trash barrel? Can somebody answer that? No trash barrel, which means that the street department doesn't have to pick up any trash. just right on the ground. You need to get trash barrels put back in. They've always been in this town. You need to get the fountains working. I understand they're just working. Fountains aren't painted. First time I can remember in years, they're not painted. These are the things that make this village beautiful. The small things that should be taken care of, and they're not. I know this is after the fact, but it's been bothering me, and I have to tell you this. You folks passed a budget without an increase. That's wonderful. My taxes didn't go up. But what you did is you took $600,000 fund balance out of a $900,000 budget to leave you $300,000 wrong. If I'm wrong, Mr. St. George, stop me. Am I right? Okay, now, if you were short $600,000 this year, what makes you think you're not going to be $600,000 next year? Now, I heard one of the trustees say, we'll raise money. Raise money where? You're going to raise taxes, is what you're going to do, because or water and sewer rates, because you're certainly not going to raise $600,000 between now and next year's budget. So that means you're going to use the rest of the fund balance and going to be short $300,000, which means because you didn't raise taxes this year, if you would have raised taxes $1, the average taxable property in this community is $60,000. That means the average household would have paid $60 more a year. Okay? Now what's going to happen is because you didn't go into the cap, next year your cap is 50% of what it was this year, and I guarantee you, you're going to be forced to raise taxes over the cap. Now, when you do that, that $187 that everybody in this village received is gone. So to save $60, you're costing everybody in this village $187.50. Doesn't make sense. I don't know what your reasoning was, but Rick St. George, and if my voice raises, it's only because I love this village and I'm sorry. But Rick St. George is an administrator. Been here, 14, 15 years? 15 years. He has more experience than all of you put together. And I don't know how he's advising you, but certainly I would suggest that you listen to him. Because he really knows, and I don't think he advised you not to raise taxes. Now, maybe he did. If he did, shame on him. Okay? But I don't think he advised you not to raise taxes. And then this is what's happening. It's because you mean well, but you don't have experience. So go to the person that has the experience.
Thank you.
Okay? You have a new attorney. You're all new on the board. You need to get advice from somebody who's experienced. Enough of that. Now, one more thing. I heard Mr. Barris, Dr. Barris, say at the last board meeting that he was abstaining from voting on the liquor law. I don't think you can abstain. Not unless you have a definite conflict of interest. Now, your constituents elect you to make decisions. You can't kick the ball down the field and punt because a decision is difficult. Either it's a yes vote or a no vote, but you should vote because that's why I voted for you. Okay? If you're not going to vote, then there's no use you being here. And that's okay. I think I've taken all the time, and I'm sorry if I've taken too much time, but it's something that had to be said. One last thing. A lot of people in this community are very upset with this board. And you may not hear it because they're your constituents. Your good constituents are going to tell you that. But people, I'm all over this village, and I can tell you, people are upset. And if you don't do anything else tonight, get garbage cans out of the street. Thank you. And one thing. See that guy above you? He's watching over you. So you better do the right thing.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. I can assure you, we all love the village. Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else? No? Close the public portion and go to resolutions.
Whereas in compliance with Part 617 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 9, State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, of the Environmental Conservation Law, the Fredonia Village Board has reviewed the capital improvement program proposed for the emergency water line replacement in the village of Fredonia. And whereas the completion of these improvements is subject to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, and whereas the proposed project has been determined to be a Type 2 action under SEQR Section 617.5C, and that the project involves the replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, and whereas in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, Type 2 actions have been determined to not have a significant impact on the environment or are otherwise precluded from environmental review under Conservation Law Article 8. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fredonia Village Board hereby determines that the proposed project is a Type 2 action and therefore is not anticipate to result in any significant adverse environmental impact, and in accordance with SEQR, no SEQR determination of significance, EIS, or finding statement is required.
I second that.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas Lakeshore Savings and Loan has graciously donated the Welcome to Fredonia sign to be located on Central Avenue in Fredonia. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to write a letter to Lakeshore Savings and Loan thanking them for their generous donation to the village of Fredonia.
I second.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Be resolved at the request of DFT Communications to hold a food truck Friday as part of their week-long community celebration, Friday, July 20th, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., which will include 4 to 6 food trucks along Temple Street in front of DFT Communications, is hereby approved. And the police department is hereby authorized to bag the parking meters along Temple Street in front of DFT Communications during this event.
Second?
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia are desirous of amending the charter of the Village of Fredonia to provide an orderly and fair process for the mobile food vehicles to operate within the village limits by adding Chapter 197 entitled Mobile Food Vehicles. And whereas a public hearing has been duly called and held before this Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia on the 25th day of June 2018 to consider the question of the enactment of proposed local law number 2 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia entitled Mobile Food Vehicles. And whereas proof of publication in the Observer of the notice of public hearing on said proposal local law has been presented to this board, and whereas proposed local law number 2 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia in its final form has been laid upon the desk of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia at least 7 calendar days prior to this date, and whereas after due deliberation this board seeks to enact said proposed local law. Now, therefore, be it entitled by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia as follows. 197-1 definition. A. Mobile food vehicle. A commercially manufactured, self-contained, motorized mobile food unit in which ready-to-eat food is cooked, wrapped, packaged, processed, or sold, including tow-behind trailers of any size. 197-2 licensing. It shall be unlawful to operate a mobile food vehicle within a geographical limit of the Village of Fredonia without having first obtained a license from the village. 197-3 application requirements. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia shall adopt by resolution requirements for obtaining a license to operate a mobile food vehicle. 197-4 fees. The board shall determine by resolution the fee for a license to operate a mobile food vehicle. 197-5 restrictions. The The board shall determine by resolution such restrictions on the operation of mobile food vehicles which it reasonably believes are necessary to protect the public safety and the interest of other food retailers within the village. 197-6, appeals. Any applicant having been denied a license to operate a mobile food vehicle may appeal said decision to the Board of Trustees, who will then grant or deny such appeal. 197-7, violations. Each violation of this chapter shall be punishable by a fine not to exceed $250 for each offense, or by imprisonment for a period of time not to exceed 15 days, or by both fine and imprisonment. Such violation may also serve as grounds to revoke a license issuant pursuant to this chapter, as well as denial of future licensing. 197-8. I always get tongue-tied on this one. Servability. Thank you. If any provision of this chapter, including any exception, part, phrase, or term, or any application thereof to any person or circumstance is held invalid, the application to other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. The validity of this chapter in any and all other respects shall not be affected thereby. I'm not an attorney, so just bear with me on some of this. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State in the State of New York as required by law. Be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to cause notice of enactment of this local law to be published in the Observer, and be it further resolved that said local law be renumbered local law number 1 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia.
Upon roll call vote, the following votes were cast with. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, of course.
I second the proposed local law.
Trustee Christina voting,
Yes.
trustee Linden voting,
Aye.
trustee Essek voting,
Is this time for comment before, or?
yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, listening to the crowd and the different thoughts here, I totally agree that this is a great thing. Are we missing a lot of things that should be spelled out before we move forward? Yes. Are we leaving a lot of things that Mr. Drayle, who's our attorney for 48 years, who has experience in writing all these over and over, that things that should be covered? Are we not doing the proper process? I'm not sure. I do have concerns, given the process and the way we have written these two local laws that leave a lot to be desired and open. I don't disagree with them, but I think, and I'm not sure if local laws can be amended later on. I don't know if that's a possibility. I really don't. Our attorney is not here, but obviously there's a difference in what's reasonable according to our attorney and what's reasonable to some other people. So I think it's a good thing. I have concerns of if we leave a lot of things out and we leave a lot of things up to just a resolution where the public does not have the right to say what they need to be heard. I don't think that's a good idea, so I'm voting no.
Okay. Trustee Briggs.
I'd also like to make a quick comment. After being on that committee, I know we spent numerous meetings together. We had people involved that were our building inspectors, police department, myself, maybe one other community member. I think the reason this whole law came in effect was we're probably one of many small communities that probably don't have anything on the books, and we kind of needed something. And we also needed to protect some of the businesses in our area. I was approached by a couple small restaurant owners that had some concerns about food trucks. And we took into consideration a lot of different aspects. And I think we did our due diligence in bouncing off each other and coming back after numerous meetings to come up with this law that we want to put on the books. I understand Sam's position. There is a process and there is a law and a way we write laws, and things have to be spelled out in laws. This is my first crack at it. So again, I wasn't familiar with that, and I was at the discretion of our attorney and the advisement from my attorney. Again, I feel comfortable with this. I feel it protects our local businesses. It kind of levels the playing field a little bit. The fee structure is nothing more than something we can talk about later on. It isn't cast in stone. So I just want to throw out there, I feel very comfortable with this, and I think it's a good way for us to move forward with our community. So I would like to vote yes.
Thank you. Trustee Barnes?
I vote aye.
Thank you. So the local law was therefore declared duly adopted by 4-1 vote.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia has determined that the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages would enhance the attendance and enjoyment of certain public gatherings, and whereas the Board has determined that a limited sale and consumption of alcohol can be allowed without frustrating the purposes of this chapter, and whereas proposed law, local law number 3, 2018 of the Village of Fredonia, amending Chapter 81 of the Fredonia Village Code entitled Alcoholic Beverages, has this day been laid upon the desks of the members of the Board of Trustees, and whereas a public hearing has been duly called and held before this Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia on the 25th day of June 2018 to consider the question of enactment of proposed local law number 3 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia entitled Alcoholic Beverages, and whereas proof of publication in the Observer of the notice of public hearing on said proposed local law has been presented to this Board, and whereas proposed local law number 3 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia in its final form has been laid upon the desks of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia at least 7 calendar days prior to this date. And whereas after due deliberation, this Board seeks to enact said proposed local law, now therefore being enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia as follows. Add Section 81-7C exceptions. The Board may, in its discretion by resolution, suspend the provisions of this chapter in a designated area of the village for a designated public event. The Board shall approve or deny by resolution all applications for alcohol sales under this exception and shall by resolution determine the requirements of such applications. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of the State of New York as required by law. Be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to cause notice of enactment of this local law to be published in the Observer, and be it further resolved that said local law be renumbered local law number 2 of 2018 of the Village of Fredonia.
I second.
Upon roll call vote, the following votes were cast to wait. Trustee Christina,
Yes.
Trustee Linden,
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Before I vote again, I want to make a comment. You know, these two local laws, especially this one, I've been, going through this very severely, and I think it's a good thing. I really do. I've talked to injury and accident attorneys and questioned our liability insurance limits, and I'm really torn on this because I really do know that the public is split really here according to the news poll. I really am. And I do think it's a good thing. I really do. If we're not, again, everything should be laid out in the local law as is and presented to the public. My vote is no.
Trustee Briggs.
Again, I kind of feel for Doug too. This is a very difficult law. And I brought up during the last meeting that this isn't going to be one of those ones where we can, have a public discussion and vote on it. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail in what we need to do. We need to protect this village. I was elected by the people of the village to represent the people of the village, and I'm also here to protect the village. And it's a very, very difficult decision. And like Doug, I've talked to attorneys, I've talked to insurance agents, I've made phone calls to numerous organizations, I've talked to other municipalities. As a moral, protective way, I mean, I have to look at this to protect my village. And I have to agree with Sam. I think there's some more detail that needs to be done here. I really do. I don't know if this is right, but I move to table this. I think the committee has a little bit more work to do before we can prevent this, just to send this to vote. I don't know if that's something I can say. I don't know if that's something I can talk about tonight. But I just want to throw it out there. I don't feel quite comfortable in this law. I move to table it.
There's already a
This
motion.
is presented for a vote, it's not.
Again, I was elected by the people of the village, and, I think my vote tonight, I'd like us to move us forward. I'd like us to be protected, and I'm hoping we're doing the right thing, but I'll vote yes tonight.
Trustee Barnes,
I abstain.
I'm gonna.
can you please explain the reasons?
I explained it the last meeting, my position that I don't believe that I should make decisions involving control of any ingested chemical substance.
I'm going to ask that the chairman of the board compels Mr. Barris, Dr. Barris, Trustee Barris to vote yes or no.
Well,
This is, it's not a conflict of interest, it's a personal opinion, so I'm going to ask that the chairman compel him to vote.
and this is something that I need the attorney here, because I'm not sure if I can compel him to vote. Anybody has any idea? Do you have any idea if I can compel him to vote?
14 years of experience. Have you had anything like this before?
No.
If it's not a conflict of interest.
I suggest that the mayor break the tie.
There's a guy sitting right there that has 48 years worth of experience.
Yep.
But it's not.
That anybody that looks at him
It's not
and
a
thinks
tie.
that he's
It's not
going
a
to steer
tie.
you wrong, it's,
So it passes.
It's still
But
passes
I
regardless, but-
no, I
it
understand that.
doesn't matter. He
but
has to go on
that-
record.
Yes,
Has to be on record.
you have to
Whether
be
it
on
was
record.
gonna be adopted or
And
not.
abstain, I'm not sure if it's a possibility for you.
I abstain.
You can vote no if you don't believe in alcohol.
That's not what I said.
He doesn't believe he
You're
should make any
misconstruing what I
decisions.
said. I said I don't vote on questions of control of ingested chemical substances. It's a very long story. It's 52 years of history.
Well,
So are you
Mr.
stating-
Dreyer,
Is it a moot question? You got 3 votes.
excuse me?
Isn't it a moot question since you have?
You have 3 votes.
You have 3
We have
votes.
three
Yes, but
votes.
the administrator said, and he's right, we have to record his vote.
So we can record it, I suppose, as he's claiming a conflict of interest because of his stance, I guess. Is that correct?
That's not what I said.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. I tried to get you to abstain.
Okay, I will ask the attorney. I have to ask the attorney and find out what's going on. The local law was therefore declared duly adopted by 3-1 vote.
3-1 vote, it's duly adopted.
Dr. Barris. Let's
Oh,
move
yes.
forward.
Be it resolved that the training request of Michael Woodward, operator training, wastewater treatment plant, to attend the basic laboratory procedures course in Morrisville, New York, from July 9th to the 13th, 2018, is hereby approved at a cost not to exceed $1,540. This conference is sponsored by Morrisville State College.
I second that motion.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Before we finish, Ms. Sortolano needs an answer and I know that Perry talked to you about it. He mentioned something on the phone. I didn't have time to talk to him, but if you can
Okay.
please give her.
Okay, someone turn off their car alarm, please.
Okay, what has happened here is our Department of Public Works Commissioner has unfortunately determined that what he would plan to do, you need engineering. But we have a new vacuum truck that has a new jetting device that might be able to temporarily relieve your issue until that gets resolved permanently.
Okay, so now explain to me again.
So they're gonna dig out by Birchwood?
Yes, where we have the right of way on the
Where
other
I
side.
asked to
She
do.
wants?
I'm just telling you
Okay,
what
all
our
right,
Department
so-
of Public Works.
So that I have it, so what you did
So-
before.
So there's gonna be a device that's gonna be used on our jetting tool to try to jet the tree roots out the way they did it. I'm not sure how it was done before, I don't
No,
know.
it was done manually.
Manually before, by
Shovels.
hand, shovels and that, so.
When Frank was the mayor and Mr. Drayle was the attorney.
Okay, so then that's temporary until, now explain to me the other part.
The other part is, it was determined, I believe, that the depth of the pipe, it was, needed to be engineered properly, because what would happen is, whatever they were gonna do, wasn't gonna work out properly, and we'd have to end up,
Okay, when we had our
Yeah,
meeting,
we
you
did.
said that you, no, wait, let me talk first. When we had our meeting, you said that you had met with the engineers. Yes, because you said you had all these papers and stuff
Oh,
out, and
they
that
had
you
the
had met with the
engineering drawings.
engineers,
They
and
had
met
the
with the,
engineering drawings.
and this is what you were gonna do.
The
So now,
depth that they have to go down, we don't have the capability to do that. That would have to be a contracted out job.
but I
along
thought
with
they were
engineering.
going to rent the equipment from, what's that guy that works?
No, we don't go that deep with our
No,
people.
no. Rent the, who's the guy
The
that?
excavator from, the guy that works for the village.
Yes, I can't remember.
Scott Marsh.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's not the excavator, it's the people, putting people in a hole that deep. We don't have the cages and stuff
Okay, let me
necessary
ask
to
you
do
this,
that work.
but you did it from Central Avenue up. You
No, that was
had-
a contractor that did that.
A contractor did that?
Yes.
Okay, that's,
Yeah,
I need
that
to
drainage was done by
understand
a
all this.
contractor, yeah.
Okay, St. George did that?
Yes.
Okay, so now you have to meet with an engineer, right? To find a
If we were gonna
contractor?
do- Yeah, if you recall, Perry had given us a quote to put into the budget.
Yes.
Well, that quote isn't anywhere near what the cost will be when you have to get an engineer involved, and then you have to actually contract that.
For the whole street?
Yes.
Not to your houses.
Not just to my
The
house?
whole, well, the street out to Central Avenue. They were
From
gonna
that
do
house?
from her house
Yes.
down to
So
Central
not the
Avenue.
whole street?
Yeah,
Not-
not the entire street.
Not the entire
Yeah.
street? So you're not doing the entire street? I
No,
thought-
what we're gonna do is what trustee Essex said.
Okay, that's what you're gonna
They're
do,
gonna
but I
cut
was
roots.
under the assumption that you were gonna do the drainage for the entire street. That's not happening
No.
at all.
No,
That was never
yeah,
gonna
That was
happen.
never gonna happen.
Okay, so it was just from here, from my house down.
Right.
Okay, so now let me ask you this. How do you go about finding out how much that's gonna cost so that could go into some type of budget?
Well, if they open it up with a root cutter, then there's no need to do that.
Okay, except what happens if that doesn't eliminate, let me tell you what happened. I had a lot of rust come through my sump pump. Now, I don't have rust around my house. This is coming from the drainage pipe. I also had a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. Now, believe me, I don't have that coming through my house either. It's coming through the drainage pipes somewhere. I don't know where. So then, I mean, and I had to go down into the sump pump and pull it out so it didn't plug, stop my sump pump from running. It was a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. So something's happening in the village that you guys need to address that's affecting my house. Not just the plug, but those drainage pipes. It's a serious, very serious issue to have all of that rust. I mean, rust It even stained my walls of my cellar because it would come up when the sump pump would run. Now, it cost me over $1,000 to replace that sump pump. And I'm just afraid that if you don't deal with that drainage issue, it doesn't just affect me. If you go down Carroll Avenue, people have holes like this in their driveways. People have part of their driveways roped off because they can't use them. And you know what they tell me? The reason why they don't come to the board meetings? Nothing gets done anyway, so why bother? They're kind of giving up on everything. But I can't afford to do that with you because it really affects my structure of my house.
Well, that was, with your house, it was something special because it was, from the beginning, it was
Yes.
built in the wrong place.
Yes.
So that's something totally different.
But,
And
no, I didn't build it, I know.
and we do know some of these things and try to address them. There is a problem, we have an infrastructure problem all around the village. It didn't start yesterday or the year before or 10 years ago. It started much before that. We try to fix as much as we can. This engineering, and now I haven't talked to Perry because he was out for a few days. This engineering, only the word engineering there, it can be $60,000, $70,000 at the very least.
I understand.
So
I
it's,
understand the
there's,
cost.
and that doesn't involve anything except a plan. Not fixing anything to at the least. So it's an expensive thing, and if he has this new equipment that we did not have before, and can fix it from the back the way he did it before.
Now, would they
then-
put DIs in there so that if this would happen again, they
That's
wouldn't
what he
have
wanted
to
to
dig
do.
up
That's correct.
everybody's yard and stuff?
That is correct.
I
That
don't,
way there's
I
an access
haven't
point
talked to
to
him,
do
so
that.
I don't know.
So they're gonna put a DI,
I believe that's what Perry had said.
okay,
Correct.
all right, because
That way we're not
they
digging
should have
things
done it
up.
last time and they didn't do that, and now they have to dig up the driveway or the parking lot.
That's correct. This way you just pull up to the storm grate, do whatever, I don't know what they have to
Okay,
do, but.
now let me ask you this, what happens if, when they do that rotor-rooter thing, they damage the pipes? You're gonna have to replace those pipes, correct?
Well, that's the problem. If you remember, that's the problem, because now we're starting going into private property. I believe, if I'm correct from the previous conversations, they will try not to get into your pipes. We don't have the right to do that, because then we assume all the responsibility.
But these are your pipes, though. These aren't my pipes. They're not my pipes, they're Fredonia's pipes.
Yes, but your house is on top of that.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're,
Yeah.
who let him put the house there?
but they're not mine, they're yours.
They built the house before they
Right.
got the approval to put the house there. They were told not to put the house
Well,
there initially.
That's
what the
there's
records
nothing
in the
I can
ordinance
do,
are.
that was
No,
way
I know,
beyond
that's-
me.
That's way beyond what we're
And
talking
you know,
about.
and it wasn't in the title search, it wasn't in the abstract, nothing was in anything, that stuff
understand that.
existed, you know what I'm saying?
Discussed it before.
So-
Yes, I understand that, but this is where we are right this moment.
Okay,
Now, if we can go further to see what an engineering, like work and proposal will cost, and see if we can afford that. Because I can assure you that there are many, many people in the village who can come here and present a case like that.
I understand.
So,
I understand.
so let's fix it the way we can. I'm glad that we have the new equipment, and then take it from there.
Do we know when that might happen? When we're
I
gonna-
don't.
We have a 30, we have a,
paving for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
no, well, the truck isn't even here yet. We have a permissive referendum in the works right now, so it has to wait 30 days before we can actually order the truck, and then the truck will get ordered, so I would say it's probably not gonna happen until the fall.
You're not gonna do this until the fall?
Correct.
Do you remember what you told me? You said June 1st. Do you remember that? Be patient.
Well,
Can you be patient just a
Because
little
of
bit
what the
longer?
proposal that we had from Perry was indicative of, and that's what we put in the budget, is that number. Well, that number is not attainable at this
And
point in
none
time.
of us
There's
is
no way that
engineer.
we can
We
attain
go
that
by
using that money.
proposals.
That money is
Well, he
way
didn't
short
know
of what
he was
it is.
talking about. Is that what you would say?
What's that?
He didn't know what he was talking about then?
Right, until you got into the real nuts and bolts of the thing. I can't, I'm not
Now,
gonna,
how much confidence do I have? A little.
well, he hadn't looked well enough at those drawings. That's his issue.
That's his issue.
None of us is
I
engineer,
know.
Mr. Solano. None of us is engineer, so we have to base our decisions to what is proposed to us.
I understand that, but you
That's-
have to understand my frustration with this
Believe me, I
situation.
have frustration up to here with this thing. I understand yours, of course I do, and Mrs. Lewis before. I do, I understand everybody's frustration. Because do you think any one of us like to sit here and being talked to this way? We like to solve problems. We like to tell you that this is gonna happen next week. However, this is the truth. That's it.
Well, this is what I heard the truth before. You understand? That's why I'm frustrated. Because before you told me we can't do that, when I asked about it when it was in January, no, we can't do that. We're gonna do it this way. Be patient with me. Okay, I was patient. I never said a thing. I didn't come to the board meetings and hassle you. They said they had talked to the engineers, they said they had the papers, the drawings out, and this is what they were gonna do. So you had someone say that they could do it this way who wasn't an engineer. I mean, I'm frustrated about that.
Usually, the problems can be solved by our DPW because they know they did these things before. Occasionally, you have problems like they think they know, and at the end, it's much better because now we don't have the case where we can go there, dig, and all of a sudden realize that, oops, this is not what we needed to do. So at least we found out before.
Mhm. Now, who said how deep you had to go? Was that an engineer that said that, or was that Perry?
The drawing.
But you had the drawings, I don't get, you had the drawings before, and you didn't notice that before?
I regret the fact that Perry's not here and none of us is any kind of expert, to be
Well,
honest.
evidently, he's not either. I mean, I'm sorry, but you have to understand.
We totally understand, and I wish this was a problem that could be solved immediately. I really do. I don't know your exact pain or circumstances, but I do know that if we would have jumped the gun and started digging here and tried to replace a pipe.
But why now do I have to wait till September to do this? Why can't you dig and put the DF?
They don't have the truck yet.
Oh, they don't have the truck yet?
That's what you just said.
Oh, I thought it was the milling paving truck. Oh.
I'm sorry, this is more like an uncommon circumstance here. This isn't putting a sewer pipe in a ditch and covering it up or something like that. I mean, this is an unusual circumstance that none of us are in control
Yes,
of.
he's going to keep you in the loop now. He talks to Perry and he's going to go.
Well, the other thing too is he was supposed to, the village was, I had bought the pipe, I talked to Perry about it, to fix my driveway, to put the drainage pipe in, just the driveway, not the drainage to go anywhere, but you know how they do it in the village. And so he came, he says, well, I have to measure it. He came and measured, he fixed. I said, well, when are you gonna do that? Because I'd like to get my driveway fixed. And he says, well, we'll do it when we dig down in there. So now I have that pipe now for almost 2 years.
Still the same answer.
Pipe sitting there, like it was.
I-
Can't even put a drainage pipe in.
Well, thank you for coming
Yeah.
very much. Okay, can we have adjournment?
I move that we adjourn.
Second that.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.
Trustee Christina. Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Esser.
Yes.
Thank you very much.